first final, and that is the qualifying final number 2. It is West Coast versus Hawthorn on Friday night. We've got two teams that have probably been in the Premiership Standard graph this year, and it is going to be an absolute thriller, this one, on Friday night. We've got Isaac Smith trying to get to that game, and he may get up or may not. These two teams last met in a final back in 1992 when West Coast Eagles won that final series, and what a game that was. And the previous year in 91, that's where Hawthorn beat West Coast in that grand final. The main key matchup in this game is you've got in the middle Nick Natanui versus Ben McAvoy, and also David Hale tending to Nick Natanui. The midfielders for West Coast in Gaff, Shuey, Pritis, Sheed, the list goes on. These midfielders is it's probably going to be one in that midfield tomorrow night. So who do I think is going to win, and how they're going to win? I reckon West Coast with their Weagle Web strategy this year, it has been brilliant, and it's going to be a one that will tangle up the Hawks tomorrow night. The Brownlow favourite in Pritis, and you've got Gaff and Shuey, who all run off the ball and kick goals. Nick Natanui wasn't playing last time when these two teams met, and he's just going to be another bonus for the West Coast Eagles for Friday night's game. Hawthorn, if they're going to have any chance of winning, they need to rest Isaac Smith. He's not 100%. You cannot go into finals with players that are injured, and Billy Hartung will probably get his chance tomorrow night. And Luke Hodges back from suspension from a bump on Chad Wingard, and also last week with a driving fine. So I think West Coast Eagles will beat the Hawks on Friday night for this game. Okay, let's go to the second game for the final series. It will kick off on Saturday afternoon. It is Fremantle versus Sydney Swans, playing at Domain Stadium. So this ground's going to get a bit of a tear up over the next coming days. These two teams met last year in the qualifying final at ANZ Stadium. Sydney won that and went on to play in a grand final against Hawthorn. The main key matchup is probably going to be Nat Fyfe and Jarek McVeigh, or Dan Hanbury, or maybe Josh Kennedy. These midfielders for both sides, it's probably going to be one out of the middle, and you've got 14 players coming back from a rest last week, who Rossi Lyon just wanted to rest his players before the first final. Didn't care if he lost against Port Adelaide, which they did, but yeah, he wasn't worried about that. Sydney, they're probably going to, if they're going to have any chance of winning this game, they need to, their bottom 6 players need to step up and produce a miracle against the Fremantle Dockers at home. So I think the Fremantle Dockers will be too strong in this game. A week's rest for 14 players, and the Fremantle Dockers will probably win this game very comfortably. So Fremantle for me in game 2 of the week 1 of the finals. Okay, let's go to the third game. Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide Crows, playing on Saturday night at the MCG. It's a bit of a weird one, this one. Western Bulldogs have been playing very well at Etihad Stadium, and the last game they played at the MCG, they actually lost against Melbourne, so they probably don't want to lose this game against Adelaide, and if they do, it will be Mad Monday in a couple of days. The best key matchup for this game is going to be probably Dangerfield and Pontarlier in the centre. You've got Will Minson coming back against Jacobs. That's probably going to be a one-sided affair. You've got Walker, Eddie Betts and Charlie down in the forward line, which will probably emulate the Western Bulldogs forward line, which will be Stringer, Crameri and Dixon. So who do I think is going to win this game? I think Adelaide will probably have more experience going into a final series than the Western Bulldogs. Western Bulldogs are around about 3 experienced players, and then they've got young players that will help them. So Western Bulldogs can win it with their fast-running play, which they've done all year at Etihad Stadium. It's going to be a little bit different on the MCG, but they did beat Richmond in round 2 earlier this year, so they can play there and win there. Adelaide, they will have probably too much fighting power down the forward line, with goals to Eddie Betts, Charlie and Lynch, and also Walker, and their midfield is pretty strong as well. So I'm picking Adelaide to beat the Western Bulldogs at the MCG. Let's go to the last game of the first week of the finals. It is Richmond versus North Melbourne, playing at MCG on Sunday. And these two teams last met in a final back in 1995 in a qualifying final when North Melbourne beat Richmond by 30 points. The key matchups for this game are going to be the centre bounce, and that is Goldstein versus Marek. And then they've got the midfielders for each side, Cochin, Martin and Delilio. And then for North Melbourne, we've got Zeeble, Swallow and Harvey. So it is going to be pretty much one in the midfield like all the other games. And once it gets down to the forwards, that's when they kick the goals. Now, both sides, how they're going to win. Richmond, they've beaten every side in the top 8 this year, bar the West Coast Eagles, who are in premiership form. Now, Richmond, they beat Sydney at Sydney. Hawthorn on a Friday night, they just demolished them. And Fremantle, well, they went over to WA and beat them there. So if Richmond get on a roll in the finals, they could touch some silverware later on in October. How's North Melbourne going to win? Well, they rested 9 players last week, and they're coming back with a week off, and they will be refreshed. The team went to a preliminary final last year against Sydney, so it is going to be interesting. North Melbourne, they're pretty strong in all areas. They play very well against the Richmond Tigers, and this will go down to the wire. Richmond, they have played 2 previous final series, who got beaten in both of them by Carlton and Port Adelaide last year, and they were all on a Sunday. So Richmond need to break that hoodoo to beat Richmond this Sunday. Who do I think is going to win this game? I think if Richmond do beat the North Melbourne Kangaroos, they could well be on their way to a preliminary final, because once they get on a roll, there'll be probably no one stopping them. So get on that Richmond bandwagon now and let it ride to the grand final if possible. Everyone can dream in the finals. So Richmond for me against the Kangaroos in the first week of the finals.